Kestrel is the default server implementation for ASP.NET Core. So by default, when you run this application, by default you're using Kestrel in background. That means when you run this application, by default it opens the Kestrel on the terminal window in background. But in addition to that, you can use a reverse proxy server called IIS Express. So then the browser's request will be received by IIS Express and the same gets forwarded to Kestrel. In case if you want to enable it or switch between them, you require to use a file called launchSettings.json. So in your Solution Explorer here, expand the folder called Properties, and there you will find a file called launchSettings.json. So just double click on that. And there you will be able to see some JSON configuration. In case if you are new to JSON, don't confuse about that. It is just a collection of key value pairs. For example, IIS settings is the key and these braces will be the value for the same. Similarly, you have something called profiles, and this is the value for the same. Totally, you have 2 profiles by default configured when you create a new project. At first, you require to focus on the first profile, which is named as My First App. So this is the value for the same. Means these are the configuration settings for that My First App. This will be name of your profile. So what is the profile will do for us? A profile is a collection of settings which enables a particular server to run our application when you start the project. So this is the name of the profile, and you can rename the same. For example, I am trying to give it as Kestrel instead of My First App. This is more meaningful name. Because by default when you use this profile to run, it uses which server? The Kestrel server. So this is more relevant name. Or you can also rename the same as something else, for example myproject.kestrel or any other name that you prefer. The same name will be shown in the toolbar here. At the top, you can see the same profiles, that is myproject.kestrel and IIS Express. The same profiles as you configure in this file. So any name changes over here in this file will automatically reflect the same in the toolbar after you save the file. And let us explore through these settings. The first setting is command name and which value is project. That means we are enabling the Kestrel server. Yes, command name project or IIS, there are 2 options. In case of command name equal to project, that indicates you would like to use Kestrel only. And what about the second option? .NET run messages equal to true. There is .NET CLI, that is .NET and then some commands. For example, you can create the application and add the files, etc. by using .NET API. Means you can use the .NET commands on the terminal. Just like Angular CLI in case of Angular framework. In case if you run any .NET command, you would like to show relevant messages or updates in the Kestrel in the terminal. If you want to do that, you will enable the same by using true, otherwise false. That means while the Kestrel server is up and running, if somebody has used .NET commands somewhere in the terminal, the relevant messages will be shown in the Kestrel window. But we have not talked about .NET CLI, so we are not going to show that demo right now. When we learn about .NET CLI in future, we will do that. And of course, the third one is easy to understand. Launch browser equal to true. In case of true, when you try to use that Kestrel, automatically the browser gets opened. In my case, the default browser on my machine is Chrome. You can change your default browser on your Windows settings. So in case of launch browser equal to true, the browser gets launched automatically with appropriate URL. What is the URL? You will configure the same by using application URL. As per the HTTP protocol, all the HTTP URLs begin with HTTP, and then as a suffix, you can see the colon and then 2 forward slashes. It is the fixed convention. And then the server name, by default to represent your local machine, localhost is the name. That indicates the local machine, means your system itself. And then after colon, you will be able to see a port number. A port number is like identification number for your current project. For example, you have created thousands of applications in the same machine. There should be a different identification numbers for each project that you create, right? And that is your port number. And what about this number 5166? It has no particular meaning. It is just randomly generated when you create the project in Visual Studio. In case if you try creating a new project, you may get a different number or maybe same number. You can simply change the port number here, right? For example, you don't want that number, you can simply change that port number to any other whatever you wish. You are free to give any other port number which is greater than 1024 and less than 65,536. Because all the port numbers that are less than 1024 are reserved by the Windows operating system. So you can give any other port number whatever you like. And once you save the file and run the application, you can see the same port number over in the browser. So you can enable any port that you want, which is greater than 1024. And this is another important setting, environment variables. The environment variables are the artifacts that contains the global values that are available across the entire application. There is a separate section that explains about environment variables, such as you can choose the environment to run the application, either of development, production, or staging. Or you can enable any environment variables such as API keys or server names or redirectional URLs, etc., which are global and common that can be accessible anywhere in the code. You will learn more about environment variables later. So these are the default settings that are available in your Kestrel server. In the toolbar, when you click on this Run button, by default it uses the Kestrel server. But in case if you would like to use the IIS Express, then there is another profile in the same file. That is IIS Express here. This is the second profile. In case if you would like to use this particular profile, in the toolbar, instead of choosing a Kestrel, you have to select IIS Express, the second one. Then you have selected the second profile over here. And this is not a fixed name, you can change it. And this command name is the fixed name, that is IIS Express. So there are two options for command name. The command name equal to project means it is the Kestrel. The command name equal to IIS Express means it is IIS Express itself. Of course, as you know, the full form, Internet Information Services, is the full form of IIS. And yes, I would like to launch the browser even when I'm using IIS Express. Let me call Express instead of calling the full name. So for this Express also the same environment variable where you can choose among development, production and staging. You will learn more about environments of ASP.NET Core application in the deployment section. And as a continuation of this IIS Express profile, you have additional settings here for the same IIS Express. Yes, IIS Express can support Windows authentication. And in case if you would like to enable the same, you will mention true over here. And from here, you can change the application URL for this IIS Express. You can change the port number. And also, you can enable the SSL, that is HTTPS protocol, by changing the port number here. So when you run this application through IIS Express, you can see the port number, that is 36920, as configured over there. Here. You can change the port number whatever you like. Of course, which is between 1024 and less than 65,535. So what are the benefits of IIS Express? The IIS Express is the lightweight version of the actual server, that is IIS. Both IIS Express and IIS also support additional features which are not supported by Kestrel. For example, HTTP access logs, port sharing, Windows authentication, process activation, configuration API, etc. But as far as I know, in most of the real-world cases, the developers prefer Linux over Windows for servers. So in case of Linux, you can use any one such as Nginx or Apache. Of course, Nginx is one of the most popular for reverse proxy. So there, most of the features that are supported by IIS are actually available in Nginx or equivalent. So you need not worry about those IIS features for a time being at least. Okay, this is the overview of launchSettings.json file. In brief, you can change the profile name here, which gets displayed in the toolbar, and you can change the port number here, and also the environment to run the ASP.NET Core project. These are the takeouts from this lecture. And in further lectures of the course, we are going to use the only Kestrel as a server, because we are not going to use any other features of IIS or IIS Express. So Kestrel is more than enough for most of the lectures during development in our course.